The box splits at the bottom, and a rusted trowel skitters across the curb. I don't help. I count labels. I count what's missing. No journals, no maps. Just Thomas's name was blacked out with a wet marker while a phone lens hunts for a clean angle. The new crew laughs like the garden is a prop, gloves still creased from the package. I watch their boots crush a border he grafted in '98. I taste rain in my coffee and slide an envelope across the hood of my car until it rests in the frame. Addressed to the heir, unsealed, heavy with a single thing that survives neglect. Thomas shifts his weight. A seed packet blinks orange from his pocket like a flare. My heartbeat lines up with the gutter drip. 1, 2, 3. And every plant name I've learned from him feels like a locked door they can't find the key for. I write 2 words on the packet before it leaves my hand. Start here. Footsteps close behind me. The phone lens turns. The gate latch clicks. Once. Subscribe if you want to see what happens when someone who earned a garden answers money with time. The kettle starts to whisper. He never watches the clock. He watches the water. When the first thread of steam lifts, he turns the knob and lets the hiss die. Rain ticks the kitchen window like a metronome. The light is thin and honest. Thomas is 70. Shoulders square. Hands map-read by work. He sorts bulbs by feel on a tea towel he has used for years. 1 tray for tulips that like a deep bed. 1 for narcissus that forgives mistakes. He taps each bulb with a knuckle. He listens for a note that only the stubborn develop. When he finds a soft one, he sets it aside without a word. I have lived next door for 23 years. I know his morning by sound. The back door, hinge, the kettle. 3 steps to the counter. A drawer slide. He used to drive to Bellmont before the street lamps shut off. 35 years in those grounds. Frost lamps at 4 a.m., hose lines coiled by color, roses pruned on the waning moon because his old mentor swore it made a difference. He kept records of the weather that never made the forecast. Dew point, soil temp, wind under the hedges. He never boasted. He kept proof. Leather journals, numbered in pencil. Each year, a clean spine. Inside, tight block print. Varietals, feed ratios, graft dates, and failures are marked with an X of a consistent size. He could walk a bed with his eyes closed and point to a root that needed air. He trained interns who moved on and took credit shots in front of his espaliered pears. He just turned up the next morning and checked the ties. He drinks his tea black. He never sweetens it. He warms the cup with a splash first. He sets the spoon on the same chipped saucer. The rain kicks up. He stands without moving for 15 seconds. You would think he is resting. He is counting. He is moving through a plan you cannot see. He does not talk about the air. He talks about soil. He talks about timing. He talks about what you do not rush. He taps a bulb and nods when it rings right. He lifts the packet of marigolds from the counter and turns it once in his palm. Not much to look at. Tagetes, the old border guard. He smiles like a man who has already done the math. My coffee cools in my hand. On the table are copies of 2 journal pages. The graft that made his late summer rose survive a surprise frost 5 years ago. The schedule that turned a shady strip into a second bloom in September. These pages do not belong to Bellmont. They belong to the hands that wrote them. He slides them into a manila folder with his name printed on the tab. He clicks the brass fastener shut. Small sound. Final. He opens the back door. Wet air moves in. The rain is steadier now. He carries the tray of bulbs to the threshold and waits for one long breath. He plants in weather like this because the ground is honest. It tells the truth about what it can hold. I watch him work and I think about the heir's turf renderings. I think about plastic green under a July sun that cooks the feet. I think about a camera that does not know what it is looking at. I think about a man who expects applause and has never learned to listen. Thomas presses a bulb into the soil with a firm twist. He pats the earth back like a promise. He looks up at me and tilts his head toward the shed. The journals are inside. Every page earned. Every page is his. The kettle pops as it cools. The rain keeps time. My thumb finds the edge of the Marigold packet in my pocket. The paper is thin. The meaning is not. Micro question. If the work of your life sat in your hands while someone rich tried to rename it, would you give it back? Or lock it down and make them come to your gate? The email lands at 2:07 p.m. Subject line, Bellmont Refresh. I open the deck on my kitchen table while rain works the gutters. The first slide is a drone still, high angle. The beds look like topography, not lives. Next slide replaces them with green carpet and white gravel ribbons that shine like plastic bones. Vendor logo in the corner. They call it low maintenance. They price it by square foot. Rip and replace, line 1. Synthetic infill, line 2. A side note warns of summer heat swell and sheen. It reads like a warranty for a fake smile. A few pages in, they show water-wise icons, blue droplet, leaf outline, no Latin, no disease schedule, no winter protection, just set schedule to monthly rinse. A slide labels the rose alley as legacy feature with a red X. Another slide swaps the espaliered pears for a cedar slat wall and uplights. They've never tied a whip to a guide wire. They want a backdrop. The heir's quote sits on a black page in significant type. Gardens should look good without constant fuss. Aesthetics over upkeep. I hear it in his party voice. He wants a photo you don't have to earn. He wants applause without the calluses. I glance at Thomas's shed door. Closed. Inside are journals in neat stacks, each spine marked in pencil, 1991 to last year. He keeps them in a metal file with a key he wears on a shoelace. I photographed each title page with his name and the year. I printed the scans and slid them into clear sleeves. I watched him sign the bottom of each one. His notes stay here. His methods remain here. If Bellmont wants a manual, they can try the public library like everyone else. The deck ends with a mock-up of turf so bright it glows. They wrote permanent green. I look out at the rain and think about soil that breathes and rests and fights back when you treat it like a set piece. I close the laptop. I write one sentence on a legal pad. Living things are not props. Then I circle it once. The circle holds. Micro question. When someone reduces a living craft to a render, do you correct their plan or let them pay to learn what they refuse to hear? We clear the workbench. I set out tags, alcohol wipes, and a fine-tip pen. Thomas lines the cuttings by parent, rose, pear, fig. Each heel cut is clean and angled, dipped and sealed. I print labels tight, parent code, date, bed coordinate, rootstock. He nods once at the order. No talk, just rhythm. He opens Journal 2009. Page edge smoothed by the same thumb for years. RLA 7B matches a graph map. Grid lines, compass, drip rate, sun hours. I copied the string down the tag, then the soil code he invented, L2S3C1, for loam, G sand, G clay, weighted to the bed's temper. He flips to 2017, finds the hard frost week, taps the note, burlap wrap, plus windbreak, plus midnight water warm. I scan the page, print his name and date stamp at the bottom, and slide it into a sleeve. The brass fastener clicks through 3 holes. His life tightened. We build the packets, 5 cuttings per sleeve, paper towel damp but not soggy, plastic wrap loose enough to breathe. I tuck a copy of the journal excerpt behind each bundle with a small card. From the notes of Thomas Whitmore, reproduced with permission of the author. The author watches me tape the flap and hands me the following stack without looking down. The gate latch answers the rain with a flat metal note. He glances at the clock and opens the file drawer that holds stamps and addresses. Conservatory, 2 universities, 1 extension office that never returned a call until last week. Envelopes already metered, each with a contents list and a bullet. No proprietary claim by Bellmont Estate. His pen underlines no. Once. He signs the donor forms with a steady hand. 1 signature per copy. His initials over the line that reads, "Instructions retained by originator." We double-check the QR codes on the sleeves. They resolve to a public page we built last night with attribution and dates. I watch each code load, then move the envelope to the ready pile. No tracking numbers go to Bellmont. No drafts leave this shed. He sets aside a small pile, 3 plain manila envelopes with seed packets inside, each packet hand-addressed. Garden club chair, local paper, old head of grounds, not gossip, witnesses. I write a 1-line note for each. Come see what a quarter-acre can teach. The ink dries fast in the shed's dry air. We stack everything in the crate by the back door. He hands me the stamped envelopes bound with twine and a clip. "Post," he says. 1 word. Enough. I test the weight. It's heavier than it looks. Paper, cuttings, proof. He reaches for the marigolds and slides 3 seeds into a blank envelope marked only with the heir's surname. No return address. Just a sticker that reads, "Open at the gate." He seals it with a thumb press, leaving a crescent on the flap. The latch clicks again when I step out. The rain is lighter. The street is empty. The crate waits by the door like a packed argument. Micro question. Do you send the proof first or the lesson? And which one lands harder when the gate finally opens? The shed smells like wet cedar and camphor. 1 bulb hums, casting a tight circle over the bench. Thomas rests his palms on the scarred wood and says a sentence he said to no one who would write it down. Gardens teach patience or they break you. I answer with what I've seen. In the winter of '09, he slept in his truck with a thermos and an old army blanket because the forecast lied and the frost came early. He woke every hour to run tepid water through a siphon so the rose crowns wouldn't shatter. He logged the temperature by hand, then went home at dawn, showered, and returned before the estate opened so no one would see the steam curling off the beds like breath. He once hand-picked beetles off the espalier for 3 straight evenings so he wouldn't need to spray during nesting season. He trained 6 interns who could quote his methods but forgot his name when the photographer asked for it. He brokered shade cloth from a neighbor's barn when the supplier missed a shipment and stapled it himself while the heir's father shook hands at a luncheon 10 yards away. He set baits at dusk and checked them at 4 a.m. so a fox family wouldn't starve because humans wanted tulips in March. He gave because the work asked, not because anyone clapped. When a storm snapped a grafted limb clean, he cut past the tear and looked for cambium like a medic checking a pulse. He whispered dates, not prayers. He called failures by name and filed them so he wouldn't repeat the same mistake out of pride. He lifts the journals, not to boast, but the way a carpenter lifts a level, tool first, then the line it proves. He turns 1 page to a margin note. Saved 3 shrubs, lost 2 by 4 degrees error. My fault. He taps the words "my fault" once, not as an apology, but as a record. The ledger knows who paid and who took the bow. I asked him why he never spoke up when credit photos went around without him. He shrugs. Bloom's the point, he says. People forget how it got there. Plants don't. He slides a waxed envelope toward me. Inside is a dried rose hip with a date and a parent code. Took 7 tries to hold that cross, he says. Worth all 7. The bulb buzzes. Rain loosens on the roof. Out in the dark, Bellmont's turf plan waits for a crew with clean gloves and bright vests. In here, the proof is heavy, and quiet. Micro question. If you knew every overnight rescue and every quiet fix behind a perfect picture, would you still let the loudest person claim the bloom? We cleared my dining table of the wood. He unrolls 3 sheets and anchors the corners with mugs. Not pretty diagrams, working maps, bed outlines in pencil, arrows for wind, dots for drainage, a red line where the neighbor's maple steals light after 3 p.m. He writes months down the left, bulbs across the top, then draws a grid you can trust at 4 a.m. when your hands are cold. Depth first, he says. We mark 6 inches for tulips, 4 for narcissus, and shallower for crocus to catch the first thaw. He circles the strip by the fence, late color here, and assigns a second wave in January to fake a longer spring. He writes bone meal, light in the margin, and underlines light. He plans for failure on paper so it won't happen in soil. I open the laptop. We bought a domain with his name before anyone else thought to. The page is plain and fast. Whitmore Garden, by appointment. A calendar block pops up. He says Sundays are for church and mending tools, so I gray them out. We cap the slots at 8. Quiet over crowd, he says. I add a note. Donations support community plots on the east side. He nods once. That's the only pitch we need. Coffee steam hangs over the maps. Rain steps down from steady to soft. I take photos of the table. The grid, his hand on the pencil, the ring of water a mug leaves over October, no faces, just proof of intent. I uploaded one to the site with 4 lines of copy. Who he is, what you'll see, and how to behave inside a living place. No pets, no picking. Listen before you ask. We test the form with my email. The confirmation arrives in 5 seconds. He watches the inbox like a man checking the sky before a burn. The cursor blinks. Nothing. Then one line appears from the garden club chair. First appointment available? A second from a local reporter. Heard whispers. Can I bring a photographer? I write back, no photos first week. See? Bring a notebook. He taps the fence strip on the map. This will be the turn, he says. Not a boast. A measurement. I print 2 copies of the schedule and slide one into his journal. He tucks it under the elastic like a seed under soil. Micro question. When your ground is small but yours, do you open the gate and set the rules, or keep it closed and let the wrong story spread? We move before lunch. Cuttings ride in a cooler lined with damp paper, with a thermometer taped to the inside of the lid. I log contents on a clipboard. Parent code, date, route prep, destination. Thomas signs each line. We photograph the box closed, then sealed, then handed over at the conservatory dock. Chain of custody without a lawyer. Inside, a tech checks our list against their intake sheet. I read it back. RLA 7B X5 PESP North XX3 F Greenhouse BX4. She initials, prints the timestamp, and sticks barcodes on each sleeve. I add our QR labels that resolve to a page bearing his name in the header and a line that reads, Materials provided by Thomas Whitmore, used with attribution. No gray areas, no estate property stamp. We step into the archives room. I lay a microfiber cloth on the scanner bed. He passes me journals one at a time. Title page first. Thomas Whitmore, 1991. I photograph the cover, the spine, and the first page with his signature and a fresh date. We scan at 600 dpi, black and white for text, color for graph maps. Every 5th page, I add a visible footer. See, Thomas Whitmore, author, Jock's originator, with the date of the scan. He signs a deposit form that makes the conservatory a public reference holder. Instruction pages can be read, not claimed. While pages process, I open my laptop and post the class slate we drafted last night. Bulbs by soil, not calendar, 12 seats. Pruning for second bloom, 10 seats. Graft rescue after storm damage, 8 seats. Each course shows him as the instructor, the conservatory as host, and a note that the manuals are his copyrighted material distributed to attendees only. Slots open in the browser like windows at dawn. 3 fill while we stand there. The registrar asks if we want a larger room. Thomas shakes his head. Hands need room, he says. We keep the cap. Back home, the scanner warms again on my dining table. I watermark the PDF bundles with his name faintly in the margin of every page. Not loud, unmistakable. I export one set for public reference, blurred where recipes get too precise, and a complete set locked behind his instructor login. I backed both to 2 drives, one for his safe, one for my firebox. Next, the notice. I draft a 1-page statement. Manuals and journals authored by Thomas Whitmore, 1991 present. Methods and notes remain the property of the author. Portions may be quoted with attribution. Reproduction subject to written consent. I print, he signs, I scan, and we email it to the conservatory, the garden club chair, the extension office, and, deliberately, the estate manager's public address. Subject line: attribution notice. No threat language. Just a clock starting. I post a short item on his site. Instruction pages prepared for conservatory classes. Attribution required. Below it, 3 thumbnail images show watermarked maps. Anyone looking will know who wrote them and when. We schedule a quiet announcement for tomorrow at 9:01 a.m. on the conservatory's feed. His name, class titles, and a photo of his hand holding a labeled cutting over clean potting mix. No face, just the work. By late afternoon, the conservatory sends a donor acknowledgement with an accession number. The greenhouse director adds a single line. We'd like to title the new teaching space Whitmore. Are you amenable? Thomas reads it twice and nods once. I file the email in a folder named Proof. I log the day like a medic after a shift. Time, action, witness. Every step leaves a mark that points to him and away from Bellmont's claim. Micro question. When the paper trail is this tight and the public doors open with his name on them, what does the heir do? Ignore it and lose face? Or step onto our ground and admit whose hands built the place? Bellmont first. A volunteer posts a photo at 9:41 a.m. Rose leaves freckled black, petals collapsed like wet paper. No stake, no heir, no schedule. The caption tries for cheer, late season learning. 3 comments land before the post turns quiet. By noon, the whole account flips its settings and hides the thread. I screenshot the gaps. Silence leaves a shape. Our street is next. Cars idle with engines off. People step out like they're entering a chapel. No chatter. Boots brush the curb and hands stay empty. The sign on Thomas's gate reads, "By appointment." They made appointments. I count 8 faces at the top of the hour and 8 more line behind them. I pass out shoe covers and point to the rule card. No picking. Hands behind back unless told otherwise. Listen first. Heads nod. They follow the path like a stitch through cloth. Inside, the fence strip Thomas circled on the map still looks like a shrug at first glance. Greens on greens. He kneels and parts foliage to show the second wave sleeping. A row of bulbs set at precise depth, soil settled right, mulch pulled back to let the crown breathe. A woman from the garden club writes crown 3 times and underlines it. A teenager records nothing, watches his hands. Cross to Bellmont. A drone shot leaks. Turf glows under bare sun. Seams show at the path edge. 2 laborers drag a wide broom like they're combing a wig. Someone writes "smells hot" in a story and tags the heir. The tag disappears. The smell won't. Back to the quarter-acre, we show the espalier rescue. He points to where a storm split a limb and how he bridged it. Clean cut, cambium kiss, pressure tape. You can see the scar knit like a healed bone. I hold the tape roll while he explains the break-like triage. The reporter who asked for photos has a notebook instead and writes so fast her pen squeaks. She whispers, "You're not coming back to Bellmont, are you?" Thomas looks at the tape, not her. "My work is here," he says. The line doesn't pose. It lands. Phone buzzes at 10:26. Conservatory email. A mock-up plaque with his name. Whitmore Teaching Greenhouse. No hype. Just brass on brick. I pass him the screen. He reads it once, then looks at the fence strip. "Keep foot traffic light there," he says. That's his celebration. Cross again. The heir posts a carousel. Past gala shots. A render of a white gravel arcade. A sentence about streamlined maintenance. Comments are off before the second slide loads. Another account shares a current photo of bellwether peonies gone to mush. The caption is one word. Why? The estate manager's reply arrives 3 hours later with 5 lines and says nothing about what you can plant. Our last tour of the morning moves like water. People lean in to smell things that still hold their own. A boy asks why the marigolds ring the bed like sentries. "They work," Thomas says. "Work counts." The mother nods. She's been nodding since the gate. At 11:58, I hang the next available sign. January slots open, 8 only, my inbox hiccups. 6 names fill in 30 seconds. The reporter asks if she can quote the greenhouse news. "After they announce," I say, "give it a day." She doesn't argue. She knows the rhythm. I check one more time. Bellmont's PR has locked replies. Stories show closed captions over footage of plastic shine. Our curb holds shoe covers drying on a rail and a stack of folded maps with soil notes in tiny, careful print. Prestige is moving, not loud, just steady, the way water finds the lower place and stays. Micro question. When the crowd shifts from marble gates to a quiet fence and the name on the plaque changes with it, what does the heir protect? His face online or the ground he scorched? The SUV noses in like it owns the curb. Door opens on polished shoes and weather that doesn't touch him. The heir comes first, the estate manager half a step behind, a photographer already walking backward to keep the smile in frame. Same teeth as the day he cut Thomas loose. Same hand sweep. Different gait. He starts with money. A leather folio, a fountain pen, and a blank line he thinks is a lever. "Name it," he says, like this is a menu. I watch the pen hang there, the nib thirsty. Thomas doesn't take it. He sets a small paper square on the gatepost instead. Marigolds. 5 seeds in a clear packet, orange dust clinging to the seam. The photographer hunts for an angle. Checkbook, packet, older man. I step into the shot and hold my phone at chest height, screen dark. He corrects me. I don't move. The estate manager tries the softer route. "Mr. Whitmore, we can formalize your notes. Proper archives. Proper credit." She says proper, like it makes up for a winter of silence. Thomas nods at me without looking away from the seeds. I take the folded note from my pocket and read what he wrote in his kitchen under the hum of one bulb. "These are foolproof," I say, voice flat. "Even you can grow them. But gardens take time, and knowledge, and respect for what came before. Those can't be repurchased once you scorch the earth." The words land. Not loud. Heavy. The photographer lowers his camera a notch on reflex, then remembers his job and lifts it again. The estate manager flinches so small you'd miss it if you didn't spend your life watching what plants do when the wind shifts. The heir laughs a fraction too late. "Let's be reasonable," he says, and opens the folio wider like a stage trick. He reaches for the packet as if that settles it. Thomas taps the seeds back into place with one finger, a gentler stop than a slap, more final than a speech. The marigolds stay on our wood, not his palm. I give him the other note. One page, printed, signed, scanned, attribution notice. He scans the header, skips the body like people who only read captions, and lands on the signature. His smile pinches. Legal? He says, to no one in particular. The estate manager takes the page like it's warm and reads it for real. I watch her eyes stick on the originator and author. She knows what those words cost when you pretend they don't exist. Behind them, two visitors wait in shoe covers, hands folded, eyes on Thomas's beds. They don't speak. They don't need to. The clock on the site says their slot starts in 3 minutes, and it will start with or without this performance. The heir tries one more angle. We'll name the garden for you, he says. A plaque. A ceremony. My phone buzzes. Conservatory's scheduled post just went live. Whitmore Teaching Greenhouse. Brass on brick, already set. I let the silence carry that answer across the gate. He sees the packet again and finally understands what's happening. He brought money to a place that measures in seasons. He pockets the pen. The photographer lowers the camera the rest of the way. The estate manager tucks the notice into her folder as if it might bite through the leather if she holds it wrong. Thomas lifts the latch 2 inches and lets it fall. The click is the same as the day they boxed his tools, but the meaning isn't. This gate opens by appointment, he says, not unkindly. You'll find the form online. He nods to the waiting guests. They step forward. The heir steps back without looking down and scuffs his shoe on the curb. White dust from Bellmont's gravel streaks the leather. I place the Marigold packet on the post where the camera can't crop it out. The wind turns the paper once, like a small flag that doesn't need a pole. Micro question. When applause and offers fail at your gate, do you let them buy a headline, or do you make them take a number and wait like everyone else? We start at the fence strip he circled on the map. Soil is cool and workable. He measures with the wooden ruler he's used longer than I've lived here. 6 inches, twist, set, firm. I hand him bulbs one by one, labels facing up until they disappear. Bone meal, light. He repeats the word under his breath and dusts the hole like seasoning you don't brag about. Rain threads the gutter chain in quiet beads. The street is empty again. The gate sign flips to closed and stays there. In the shed, the journals dry on a rack like paper leaves. On my phone, the conservatory's post has passed 1,000 saves. I don't read the comments. I watch water sink where it should. We move along the bed without talking. He checks spacing by eye and still drops a string to verify. The line goes straight because his hands remember when his back forgets. At the corner, he lifts mulch with 2 fingers and settles it back like tucking a child in. The smell rises. Earth, wet cedar, faint camphor from the shed, coffee cooling on the post. I confirm the calendar. Greenhouse dedication in 6 weeks, first class in 8. The neighborhood list is at 6 months and counting. I cap it there before demand turns the path into a road. He nods. Beds first, he says. That's the whole policy. A robin works the lawn beside us and finds nothing to pull. Good sign. We set the depth right. He stands, stretches, and looks over what we covered. No speech. Just the slight satisfied click of the trowel going back into its slot. I take the Marigold packet from the gate and press it flat between my palms. We'll keep it as a marker, not spite, memory. I slide it into a plastic sleeve and label it with today's date. He writes 2 words under it in neat block print. Held ground. We coil the hose, hang the shoe covers to dry, and wipe the ruler clean. The rain softens to a mist that makes the air taste green. He pours the last inch of tea into the soil at the post and taps the mug twice on wood. Ritual finished. I turn the camera toward the bed and keep my voice plain. If you value hands that know more than a render, if you want the quiet crew to get seen, subscribe and share this. It keeps the gate open for the right reasons. The gutter gives one last drop. The yard holds still. Somewhere up the road, gravel bakes under a brief sunbreak and then cools fast because nothing living there asks it to stay warm. Micro question. When spring comes and this strip lifts in colors someone thought could be skipped, whose name do you want people to say out loud? The one who paid for turf? Or the one who put every piece in the ground by hand?